Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Firsties. I can't. She's making me laugh already. I have a very special guest here today. I've been saying that for every episode, so hopefully you still feel special. I have one of my favorite cousins, Naomi. Say hey, girl.
Hi.
So today, like I said, I have one of my favorite cousins here. Today we're going to be talking about dating. Dun, 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 dun. Actually, is there? That was fun. Okay.
Seriously.
So as you know, and my cousin already knows this, but my podcast, Firsties, is really a safe space for first gens who come from immigrant parents, but also people who are the first to do anything. And I think it's fun to talk about the very unique experience of dating in coming from an African, Ethiopian, Habesha, Christian household. Is there anything that you want to say, Moms?
I don't know. It's like
where should we even start? That's what my question.
I don't even know
that's
where to
why
start. I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
You know where we should start?
Yeah.
We should start how I don't think any of us had a healthy, this is how a guy should treat you. This is what dating looks like. Oh, you have a boyfriend, bring him over.
None of that.
It was all of the stuff, all the trainings, all the preparations that should happen in the beginning just never happened.
Correct.
And
it's
kind of
absolutely true.
I woke up at 27. My dad was like, your ovaries are going to expire. And I was just like,
that is so real.
And I was like,
that is the realest shit ever.
I thought I wasn't allowed to talk to boys.
Right.
I just don't even
So to give a little bit more context, because I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes. Please take a sip of your drink while, yes. Okay. So to give a little bit of context, we grew up, our parents immigrated from Ethiopia and we came here. And a lot of us, you have Indian friends, Asian friends, Hispanic friends. They all have this shared experience, which is why I absolutely love this show and this platform. But the one thing they pushed was what? Education.
Yes.
Education,
Mm-hmm.
education.
Yes.
Before feelings, before relationships, before mental health. It was great.
Your happiness, your happiness.
So, number 5 on the
is
list.
so mundane. They just it's not at all their concern.
Yeah. And we're either going to cry about it or laugh about it. So we choose to laugh about it here on this podcast.
Yeah.
So it was all education, honor roll. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be a doctor, nurse, EMT, medical assistant, whatever it was. So then you graduate high school and college, and then it's this weird thing that happens where they're like, so where's the boyfriend? Where's the husband?
Mm-hmm.
When literally, I can only speak from my experience, and you have the same type of friends, where some of my friends who did not grow up in an immigrant household that didn't have that perspective or that experience, by the age of 27, they already had a healthy, I wouldn't say healthy, but they just knew a little bit more about themselves. Where I came at, I'm at a kindergarten level of dating or whatever when I say knowing more about myself, because boys were, off limits. I wasn't able to date or whatever. It was all grades, school, work, sports. You know what I mean? Go ahead.
It wasn't.
That was my experience, but go ahead.
I don't think it was only just that. I think it was, I feel like it's a very, and I say this even today, it's a very American thing to bring your boyfriend or your girlfriend home after school in high school or even middle school. And I say
my daddy would, what?
Yeah. It's not anything
encouraged.
that it would ever cross my mind. Forget then, I'm 28.
Yeah.
I'm a grown ass person.
Yeah.
And I would not I would never introduce anybody to my father unless I knew I was marrying him till today. That has been instilled in me, which is not cool. In my head, I look at my other friends, especially American. And I don't just mean white American. I'm talking about white, black, whatever.
Yeah.
American, household.
Yeah.
They have such a healthy relationship with their parents when it comes to the other sex. So they are like, hey, dad, this happened. Hey, dad, he said this to me. Hey, mom, this happened. Hey, dad, this happened. And there's this it's a very healthy, not just that, it's a healthy communication. It is, you know, it's like we take our advice from our parents from like, hey, how do you cook this? How do you do this? How should I do this? But like, that's the one topic that we were never able to like openly talk to them about.
So
and then I feel like we started having our experiences a tad bit later in life. And then on top of that, it was always a secret, or it's like, oh, you're doing something bad. You're not. You're learning about somebody else. You're learning about yourself. You're growing with that person.
Absolutely. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Like,
there's nothing wrong
with
dating.
I don't know. It's like certain things that saying like, oh, your childhood doesn't matter or whatnot. I don't think you can always revert back to it as, oh, that's my excuse for where I am in life today, or that's my excuse for this and that. But those values that they instilled, they instilled those values hard, because I still struggle with them. I disagree with them about a lot of things, and yet I still live my life that way.
Yeah. Because
it's crazy.
Instilled at a young age. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Damn, I felt they're good.
They're real good.
They're real good.
Yeah. They're Jedi mind.
Yeah, like, they're good. They look innocent, don't they now?
And we absolutely love them, but man, yeah.
They're good.
Yeah. And that's on Mary Had a Little Lamb.
They're good. Wale did a great job. They're good.
As we take a sip. No, I could totally relate to that, because even now it's just so, I just feel like, and God's timing, you know, all that, but I just feel like sometimes I'm a little bit behind on that. Career, school, all that. Yeah, I killed that because that's what I was focused on. Mm-hmm. And also what we talked about in our last episode was how much of our identity lied within our performance, rather than, and I just saw a TikTok, I could pull it up, but it was a student at a graduation talking about we're human beings, not doings, and how a lot of us define ourselves like, when I define myself by like, I'm this type of, like, I'm a podcaster, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a cousin, rather than like, I'm a kind person, I'm bubbly, I'm all the things that actually make me who I am. But it was because at a young age, it was like, no, what are you doing? Yeah. Where's your report card? Like, how was your volleyball match? Like, that was what it was. And it was never a discussion. If I came home to my African parents who was like, oh my God, like, I'm really into Jacob, like, you know, we talked a little bit in class, my mom would look at me like, girl, what are you? Like,
offense number one is like, why are you talking like to the opposite sex? Offense number two is like, Jacob didn't sound like he was Ethiopian. Right. Those are like two big offenses.
Double homicide. Yeah.
But you know what's so funny? Like, the funniest thing that I will never, ever, ever get over.
Mom, white heart.
Is the fact, like, the one thing that I will never, ever get over is the fact that, like, their requirements and restrictions dwindle down to nothing as you get older.
Right.
They went from, like, he has to be Ethiopian, he has to hold this many degrees.
Oh yeah, the checklist.
He has to like this and that. And then, like, I think that, like, us, well, we all grew up together. I would say that, like, your dad influenced me just as much as my dad did. My dad probably influenced you, and, like, our other cousin's father. Like, I feel like all of our
for context, our fathers are brothers.
Yeah, so like, I feel like all the brothers had some type of influence on all of us. So it's just so funny that they went from, like, this hardcore checklist, and, like, none of us were heavy on, oh, we have to date an Ethiopian. None of us are.
And I don't think anyone are going to be.
Yeah, like,
none of us coming home at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, like, none of us are.
What do you mean? Okay, just I want to go a little bit more into.
Wait, okay, I'm so sorry. I have to. But, like, you remember how strict that list was?
Yeah.
And then they dwindled it down.
Is he breathing?
And, like, it's like, can he father children? Because I think that's all. We just want our bloodline to continue. Like,
right.
I feel like that list dwindled down. It went from, like, so strict to, like, they just don't care.
Yeah.
And we're not old. Can we, like we're 28.
Right, I'm 27.
Yeah, like, I just don't
Can we relax? But it was after graduating college that it was like, boom. You're 27, babe. You graduated college how many years ago, or high school or whatever? Like, what's going on? Yeah. How do you feel about, because we talked about with the cousins every Thanksgiving, there's a new family member coming over, right? Which we absolutely love, which is always so much fun for us. Not all of them are Habesha. Not all of them are from Africa, right? How do you think that's going? And share what you feel comfortable, Namie. But how do you feel that that's going? That, like, I definitely have thought about, and not to share my experience, but bringing a I'm not saying non-African, but non-Ethiopian person home, non-Habesha person home. Because like we discussed, and I don't know why, there's an unspoken rule that who you bring home is like an unsaid like message that this is the person I choose. Yeah. It might not work out that way later on the line. You never know what can happen, but this is who I choose to be. And you've probably already had the discussion of engagement or marriage before you even bring them home. That's ours right now. I can only speak for myself. My friends who are non-immigrant, come from non-immigrant families, that wasn't the case. They dated a person for 6 weeks and they're at the family gathering. That was not our case this time. Yeah. We vet them for a year or two, maybe more.
Absolutely. I've never...
To the point where it's like strange.
Yeah. You've never introduced a man to the family?
No.
I've never introduced a man to the family.
I don't know why just right now when you said that, like I'm clutching my pearls, even though I know it. But for some reason, I'm like, whoa, we've never introduced anyone to the family.
Yeah, and I think...
Because our family makes us feel like rotten eggs. No, we're only 27.
It's not just that.
Like, give me a second, Mom.
I don't know what it is. They did a great job in putting that thought in me that, like, you shouldn't introduce somebody unless you know you're going to be with that person for the rest of your life. And actually, I don't know about your dad, my uncle, your dad. I don't know how he's ever put it, but my dad has straight out bluntly said, I don't want to meet anyone that you're not marrying. I've been told that.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's not even a question.
Interesting. So just to give a little bit more context, I'm only going to speak on my dad and you can share what you want, but you know your uncle, my dad.
Yeah.
I would honestly say he's one of the outliers when it comes to the traditional Habesha African dad. He definitely is traditional in so many ways as far as his faith and his expectations of us, but you know him. He's like the life of the party. He's the fun guy. Yeah. He's, if anything, I would argue he could be a little more like serious about dating and things. He's more so like, whoever you love, I love, whoever it is. He really is like, I prefer for them to be a Christian, but white, black, purple, yellow, whatever you want, bring them home, which is nice. But that still doesn't take away, they exercise that muscle that is focused on just school. So now that I'm a grown person and make my, take care of myself, all I'm focusing on is work. Like, I don't know how to turn that off, kind of. Does that make sense? And so I'm incapable of processing my emotions is what I'm saying. So if you could help me, that would be good.
Oh man,
because something is wrong. No, I'm being facetious.
I don't know. I think I'm working on myself. So okay. I don't know if I'm the best person to help. And
honestly, I respect that. Can I just say to the camera, go to someone who knows what they're talking about. Yeah. It's real for someone to be like, babes, I'm barely holding it up. Like, the blind can't lead the blind. Yeah. So go to people who are either licensed or who already gone through that experience. I appreciate that you're like, girl, I'm the wrong one. Don't come to me for this advice.
Yeah, it's definitely not me. Definitely not me.
Okay. But I feel like we could learn from all our testimonies and all that stuff. So we don't have to get into like advice or anything like that. But I just thought that was funny. So as I sit my mule.
So that's like Fee, right? So my dad, I think just has. So I think like your dad is like the let loose.
You know him, yeah. He's the fun life of the party.
Not you know him.
Yeah.
Yes, I know him.
But I meant like you know him.
But like my dad's more like strict and this is how things should be done and we're not gonna revert outside of like the manual that came with the package. Like my dad isn't the, oh, I open a box from IKEA, I'm gonna try to use common sense to do it. He's like, that's a waste of time. My dad's more of use a manual. That's the only way.
Great example.
Like that's the only way
to explain my uncle.
Yeah, that's like he's like that's the only right way. Any other way is trash. Not ridiculous. It's trash, and you will be judged for it. And I've learned that, like, I've already accepted. There's one fact that I've accepted before I even gave my dad the chance to show me how he will be, because I've never brought anybody to him. But something that I have accepted is I don't think anybody's going to be good enough. I don't think, based on his requirements and his restrictions and how he is, I don't think he'll be, like, 100% happy with anybody, any man that I bring. And at the end of the day, like, and I don't mean this disrespectfully or anything, but I think that, like, and I hope that that wouldn't be in the back of my head at all. That's not in my mind at all. I don't think about his feelings in regards to that. I think of, I want to be happy. I want to be with who makes me happy, because I'm going to live with that person. I'm going to be with that person.
But do you think you would take that into account at least? Like, that might be part of it, but not all of it.
I don't know.
It's not the power of the veto, but it's like, you know what I mean?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I obviously don't hope that for you, because I
don't think so.
Especially because I know
I'm not saying he's going to be like, no, not happy, but I already know that there will be nobody that I introduce him to. And he's like, he's the one 100%.
Right.
You know what I mean?
How does that, and not me being a therapist, but I'm interested. How do you think that makes you feel?
I don't think, at first it was scary. Like, at first I was like, man, this is scary. But right now,
it's just like, it is what it is.
Like,
that's the situation.
I'm trying to come up with a term that sounds a lot better than I don't really care. Because I don't really care comes off as like, I don't give a shit about my father's opinion in this subject. But that's not exactly. That's not the case. Like, my thing is like, there are so many other things in being in a relationship and being with someone and getting married and all of that surpasses what your mom or dad think of that person. As long as both parties are being respectful and they can be around each other, you believing that one's the right for me or not right for me.
I'm understanding. So you're saying it's fine with you that your dad is not jumping up and down over the partner you chose, but everybody will be respectful, cordial.
Yeah, that would be my expectation.
Okay.
Not my expectation. That would be my requirement on both parties. Right. It's not even an expectation, because like, people don't meet expectations. This would be a requirement to be around me and mine.
Mm-hmm. Like, amen to that.
From both sides.
And that's on Mary Had a Little Lamb.
And that's for both of them.
Right.
Both parties.
Right. Yeah.
But I feel like our moms are so much more chill. No?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like my mom has literally one requirement.
Which is?
He has to be Christian.
Yeah, which is already your requirement.
Yeah, but like, that's it.
Yeah.
I don't think my mother has any other restriction besides he must be Christian.
And something about my cousin Naomi, she's an only child. So when it comes to like the approach, I could see the difference between, girl, I'm your sister too. Like, you're not an only child.
I know, but like being an only child and like your parents having that one expectation from that one person.
For sure. Yeah. I can only imagine. Yeah, absolutely. You take that sip, girl. Mm-hmm. But I could see also something that happens with Habesha parents, their approach, which we could get into this for the longest, but I'm not going to start. Their approach with my brother is completely different than me and my sister. And also you and my cousin Frey. I don't even want to talk about that,
because that's not even fair.
It's not. But let's talk about it for a second.
Because it isn't.
It comes back to just like gender roles and what happens in the home and a marriage and things. My brother, and I know you're watching or you're listening to this, Josie, my brother can kiki. He's having a good old time traveling, having fun, getting invited to all these weddings because his friends are getting married. Now, I don't know what his plans are, but it just doesn't seem like my parents are down his throat about like, get married. Mm-hmm. They've talked to him about it a couple times, but they're looking at me and my sister that way, which is wild to me, because I'm right now at this moment in my life, I don't even have a candidate. So it's like, it'd be one thing if I was dating someone and they're like, oh, when is it going to happen? You know what I mean? But there's no one in the horizon right now. Right. And I think God intended that way. That's just how I feel. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes I get a little annoyed because I just don't think it's fair. It just seems like all the guys are having the fun and we have to settle down at freaking, I'm 27. I'm going to be a child bride.
Well, because of it's biological.
I know.
I'm not agreeing with them, but their mentality
you're explaining
comes,
what it,
their mentality comes 100% from it being biological. Like, you don't have forever to have kids, is what they're thinking. But I think it's absolutely wild and out of this earth for them to go from no men, not ever. I'm talking about the topic of men. Never
not
came up.
Camera.
Like,
she's like, I need you guys to hear me. For the people who are listening, she's just looking straight at the camera. Like,
I'm not exaggerating. I'm not joking. Like, I never had a direct, this is what you should expect from a man. This, like, my father and my mother went from like not talking about the opposite sex ever to like one day in my like mid-20s, they were like, so
what up?
And then now it's like,
what's popping?
Are you gonna at least have a kid? Like, if you're not gonna, and I'm just like, one, calm down.
Right.
Two, this is like a whole new universe having this conversation with you.
We didn't even did you have the sex talk with your parents?
And then whoa, hold on. But like, it just went from 0 to nothing.
Right.
But
literally like I just did right now.
But exactly. But I think it's actually like even crazier that they don't have that talk with their sons either. But like their sons can go out and do all of this stuff without any of that education.
Pop, lock, and drop in it.
Without any of the education. Like, we didn't get it either, but we were expected to like be more reserved and whatnot. And like, they can bring home whoever they want. They can introduce any girls.
Yeah.
They can do whatever it is that they want. And it's kind of like,
boys will be boys.
And then it's like, there's not really, I mean, I guess it's truthful. There really isn't a genuine time restriction when it comes to men fathering children. And yes, it does get a little harder at some point. And yes, it does have its risks. But at the end of the day, like 70, 80, technically you could still be a daddy.
Bus mom. All right, guys, we're back. Sorry, we had to take a quick break. So, Naomi was on a roll just now. Sorry, let me put up my headphones. And you really get into it. You're really teaching the people, aren't you? Yeah, I mean, there are these gender roles and expectations. It's been since biblical times, like it's been since forever. Mm-hmm. It can be very frustrating, right? I do think we are the generation to, for lack of better words, not give a flying hoot, right? To a certain degree.
Yeah, I mean, like,
look, you could just see how our cousins are moving now.
You mean like breaking the chain? Like, I get it, yeah. But is it really like completely? I don't know. I think it's gonna take a little bit more time.
You think? You think like let's say, Nunu's generation? Like the generation younger than us?
Maybe.
I'm like, are we maybe
at like a little younger
Anki's
than them
generation?
Too.
Like,
for reference,
Lala's.
Anki and Lala are like 9, and how's Anki 6?
Yeah,
I think she's 6.
She's a little one.
Maybe, but I don't. So here's the thing.
Here's the thing.
Because it's
let
so
him know.
hard.
Let him pop.
It's
say
so
it with
so hard.
Your
It's like culture and religion are really intertwined in Ethiopia, mm-hmm. and sometimes it's like they're so intertwined that like the lines there's a lot of gray area, and like you'll be like, oh, is this due to the Orthodox religion or is this like our culture? And like you don't know, and they never tell you.
Figure it out.
You can ask like a million and one questions, and they'll be like, oh, and then it comes from the fact that they didn't ask questions. It's almost like a bunch of tall tales. You know what I'm saying? Like, It's just like, oh, it's tradition. Oh, it's culture. Oh, it's religion. This is just how we do it.
Nobody wants to ruffle feathers.
This is how we do things. And because of that, I think that like we may not know it, but I think we have it like instilled like very deep within us. So like, I feel like I do it sometimes with certain things. Like there are like certain judgments that I make, although thou shalt not judge, we're all guilty of it. And I know that it comes from the way I was raised, and it comes from, that's like whether or not I want to admit it, like maybe that is how I think. And maybe like Like I said earlier, before we even started, they did good.
They did.
They laid the foundation so thick. Like, it's so crazy.
Thick, like cold grits.
Yes, like pavement.
Yes, like crazy. Cold grits. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So let me ask you this. When it comes to finding the opposite sex, dating, what was that experience like for you where one day you woke up and you're like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to get married now. My parents are asking. My aunties and uncles, I love you guys, but you're asking. It's almost like our parents come at the other kid harder. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like my dad's asking you and your dad's asking me more than anything. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because they see your dad sees how you live, my dad sees how I live. Whatever. Yeah. So they know. So they ask you like, what's going on? Yeah,
they're like ours is single, so let's hope there's more going on that side.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also the expectation that like, you know, obviously our younger cousins are not getting this. It's like we've graduated to this age. Yeah. We're in the pool of, you know what I mean? Yeah. So they're asking us all these questions. They go
from like zero, absolutely nothing, never referring to a man to like, where's your boyfriend? Why don't you have a ring? Like,
right.
Your eggs, they're drying up. I'm watching them dry.
While we're talking. Yeah. That's happening. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I just find that, I don't know. I just found that compared to my other friends that I'm a little bit more, and if that's okay, this is how my life is, totally fine with it. It works. It's going to work out how it works out. What's for me will never pass me. I truly, truly believe that. But I do feel like I'm a little bit more behind when it comes to the dating game. And
behind in one sense. I need you to like clarify what do you mean by behind?
I'm glad
like you haven't like dated enough, like you feel like you just don't have enough experiences or stories to tell, or what do you mean by behind?
Now, you know, I always have stories to tell.
I know, but what do you mean by behind?
What, we meet every week and we just tell each other all the tea? No, but what I mean is, and my friends argue, they're like, well, Mila, that's good for you because my history, I have all these exes that led to nothing. And I would argue, no, it didn't lead to anything. Every time you've had an ex or whatever, yeah, it didn't end, maybe it didn't end greatly or whatever, but you learned something about yourself. You're like, that's not my favorite flavor, but I tried it. Yeah. How do you not know we don't like if you don't try it? So I'm very much a little bit, behind is not the right word. That's aggressive, but I still have more to learn. And I just feel like 27 is a very young age. Like, I don't know shit. It's a very, very young age. 28 is a very, very young age, right? In the grand scheme of like what we have to learn. But sometimes in our culture, it makes us feel like I need to get another degree. I need to get married. I need to get a house. I need to do all these things. And that's not the case. And part of it has to do, truly for me, my experience, sometimes my anxiety or like thinking about that is I'm truly, and I don't want to get too morbid, but I'm truly trying to beat my parents' clock. Ideally, I want them to see me achieve these things before they're gone.
Understandable.
Right? I would love for both my parents to be able to be healthy and there on my wedding day. Right? Truly. I do think about that all the time. Now, it happens in God's timing. You know, God forbid anything were to happen. I pray for that literally every day. But I'm always thinking about that, right? Yeah. We're getting older. Our parents are getting older, right? You see your dad moving a little bit slower. You see your parent forget their key 1 or 2 times in a day. And you're like, you know what I mean? Like, they're getting older. And I do think about that because I want to, the reason why I work so hard is to give it back to our parents and share it, not just with my parents, but with you, whatever it is, right? So I do thinking about that. That's the only thing that really is my motivator. Does that mean I'm like, okay, where's my husband? Where's my husband? No. I talked to my mom about this in one of the very first episodes, and she agreed, and we agreed that, and we discussed that sometimes that push or that encouragement from our parents leads us to a very toxic and very, very bad and compromising position with men, right? Because it's like just bring someone home rather than bringing the right God-fearing man home, right? Because like what you mentioned, our parents, their list dwindles down to like, is he breathing? Can he take care of you? Which is a great one. But before is like educated, Christian, like all these things, right? Like family-oriented, all this stuff. And then as we get older, they're like who's out there? You know what I mean?
Your dad literally once said,
oh my God,
he doesn't have to have both legs.
Both limbs?
Yeah, like he said, like, he doesn't even have to have 2 legs. Like, there are prosthetics out there. There's crunch. And I was just like,
I mean,
I don't remember who did he say that to. He said that to somebody, and I was a bystander with like my jaw dropped. Like, yeah. I was just like,
he says in Moddingan, which is so much funnier. So maybe you could translate for the audience. But he says, men are like dogs, so pick one and train them, and he'll always come back to you.
Yes, he does say that a lot.
Does he not say that every Thanksgiving?
He does.
Like he holds court and he's like, so this is the tea.
Yeah. He gathers all of his nieces. Can you say
Namadinga, please?
I don't know what Namadinga. Okay. Like I know how to say Namadinga, but I don't know if that's an actual saying.
Okay, got it. No, but it's absolutely not a saying, but just saying Namadinga. That's what I'm saying. He's like, bring a dog home. And I'm saying in English, so it obviously sounds a little bit differently. But
no, but like I think you got it down to the T. He's telling you to choose.
He's saying just pick someone.
Choose a dog, train him, and he'll come back. Like
and he'll come back. He literally said train them and he'll come back. Obviously, that's probably not the best advice out there. So if you're hearing this, please don't take my dad's advice. But if you met him, if you ever get a chance to go on my TikTok, Mila Fisaha on TikTok, you will see him in his own environment and just how he is. He's just an interesting guy. I absolutely love him, actually. He's a very, vibrant character, and he's just who he is. And I actually love him. I can't wait for him to come on the show. I cannot wait for that episode.
I'm going to be like in the corner watching that live. Yeah.
But it's literally, it's not anything he won't say that you haven't heard before.
Yeah, for sure.
And by the way, when he's telling us this advice, I learned this advice at like 14 years old, like when I'm not supposed to be, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's nice that I had that kind of different perspective growing up because he's not the. See,
that's different. That's like a difference between me and you growing up.
Right.
My father did not talk about men until I was maybe like 25, 26. Right. Like it wasn't a topic that he ever brought up. I'm talking about like never, ever. Like ever.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, that's part of it wasn't a thing.
So what happened? Okay, let me ask you this. What happened when you liked a boy? Like you're in middle school, high school, and you liked a boy. Mm-hmm. You just share with your friends.
Yeah.
Would you share it with your mom?
No, not then. No, absolutely not.
So, but you knew innately, like, I'm not sharing this with my parents. Did you think
ever?
Do you? Can you? Think
I didn't
back?
think it was okay.
Okay, so can you think back? Was it because they didn't? You thought, oh, they were not going to care. I'm going to get in trouble. They're going to like chastise me or whatever it's called.
I grew up thinking that that's a wildly offensive and inappropriate conversation to have with your parents, especially your dad. Like wildly offensive and like super duper inappropriate, like disrespectful actually. Like how dare I talk to my dad? Like how dare I talk to my father about a guy?
Which is so interesting because a lot of our friends don't.
Today, I shall remain not talking to my dad about anything around that. Unless I'm sure like we're getting married, then I'll introduce you. That's what all of our cousins did.
It was like an unspoken rule.
All of our cousins that are married.
Yeah.
They weren't like, hey, look at my man.
No, every person who's married to our family.
They introduced.
Yeah.
Every single one of our cousins introduced their significant other, and they were engaged within like a week or two. It was like right before.
It was pretty quick.
It was all of them.
It wasn't a week or two.
It was like all of them. Yeah, it was immediate.
It was quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's super old fashioned as well.
But I don't necessarily disagree with that because that actually keeps us accountable and we're not just because here's my thing, and I think a lot of people will resonate with this. I know you will because you absolutely love your parents. I find wherever my parents are is a very sacred place, right? So I'm not just bringing anyone around them.
Yeah, that's true.
The other thing and also you know this too. You have the same experience. I've had the same best friend since middle school, elementary school. My parents knows their names. My parents know their parents. My parents know their last name, right? My parents has helped out some of my friends when they've had tough times in high school, right? That's a reflection of what my parents does once they see that, oh, this person also loves their child.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So I'm not just bringing anyone out, right? Simple point of like, yeah, people could come over, but like when I take it where if I invite you over, I trust that you're going to act right. I know you. I know your mom. I know your grandmother. I know you're going to act right. You're coming into my space where possibly my little nieces and nephews are, right? Yeah. That's a sacred space. Eating my mom's food, that's a sacred thing to me. Not everyone just gets to do that. And I'm not saying it as we're the baddest out there, but no, for every person out there, your parents are the most sacred people to you. The reason why I'm here, the reason why I am who I am. So I'm not just going to invite anyone out.
So I agree with you.
Right.
But I would also like to add, like, I don't want my dad thinking I'm out here kissing people. Like, that also bothers me too. Is like, so if I introduce gross. 2 or 3 people to my dad, like, lifetime, he's gonna like know that like something physical has gone down with all of those people, and that really makes my skin crawl because of how dirty that, like, how they made love with someone else that's not your family member disgustingly dirty.
So then what are you gonna do?
Bothers me.
Because one thing I know about you, Naomi, is you dream of being a mom. What are you gonna do when you're pregnant? That's literally evidence that you've done the bound chicken. Wow.
I hate you. I mean, that's different. Like,
is it? Because now your parents know for sure.
I know, but I'm just
you were dropping a zeal.
I'm talking about like just the, and it's at the end of the day, this is a flaw that I believe I have. Like, because at the end of the day,
oh my God, talking about, I'm already like my skin is crawling.
No, but it is a flaw because I think it's a flaw because there's nothing wrong with like getting to know someone, caring about somebody, and then
I'm already uncomfortable
like,
with that statement alone.
Like, kiss,
I'm
like,
already uncomfortable with that statement alone.
I know, but there's nothing wrong with it.
Again,
we shouldn't be uncomfortable discussing it. It should be a beautiful thing. It's like lovey-dovey. Like,
I told you, I am the issue. We discussed that.
Yeah, I know. I don't think you're the issue. I think like these things that were instilled in us are like
very young age,
pretty crappy.
Yeah, but was it even like, I don't know about you, my dad wasn't, and my parents weren't like, sex is bad and no boys or nothing like that. But it was just they were so hard, on just education, on just sports, that I was like, oh, I guess there's no room left for like friendship and exploring boys or like whatever.
It was like, I grew up, well, like only child, like it wasn't like,
did you have a homecoming date?
Let's not discuss. Let's leave homecoming and prom alone.
But did you do? Okay, let me ask. Did you perform? Did you take part in those milestones, those high school, middle school
yes,
stuff?
I did. I absolutely did.
Senior night at your games, like all that stuff.
All of that. That they never. I would never say they withheld me from anything like that, like playing sports, doing.
They just withheld you from love.
It was like it wasn't like that. It was just like a guy knocking on my door.
I literally
to pick me up to pick you up for prom or homecoming, and then that
happened,
and then to have like the door shut.
That happened. No, but my dad to do the whole thing, like he's sitting on the couch with a bat in his hand, and like the whole movie scene. No, I would.
So for me,
no,
I'm telling you, for me, there are multiple instances where there would be like my guy friend, and I mean, it could be like my friend's boyfriend, or it can be a guy that like I literally grew up with, elementary, middle, like my father knows him, my mother knows him,
right?
My mother knows his mother. There's absolutely nothing going between us. And my father, like, it's the typical open the door, see it's a guy, shut the door, barely tells me someone's at the door. Like it was just so wrong.
I know.
And then now it's like it's my dad, so excited for me.
That's so common.
Yeah.
That's so, if anything, my dad is the outlier when it comes to that. But that's
crazy.
so
I feel
common.
like Fee is just like very playful when it comes to stuff like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, he is. And at the end of the day, it comes from love. Our parents just want us to be loved and taken care of. That's really it.
Craziest
it just
thing.
come out different. It just comes out like, whoa.
It's the craziest thing that like, that's how they show.
Yeah.
And it's not because like, oh, everybody sucks. It's like no one's good enough for my daughter. And that's like a sweet gesture. But like when you take it to the point where you're like
no one
affecting my everyday life about it, or if it comes to a point where, oh, I really don't like him, I don't think he's good enough for you, and that's my stance like from here on out, I think that's a problem.
That can be,
Yeah. Please leave comments about like therapists that you all think.
Literally, so drop down below how you could help us. And honestly, again, this is why I love this podcast, because it's not necessarily that we even have advice or anything like that, but it's just having these conversations. Millions of people, Namia, including like myself, have gone through this. Not just Habesha people. You know this. Or your friends.
I think
it's more common than not, actually. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Majority of this country is minority people.
I think African fathers take it to a whole new level, though. Like I feel like
I will agree on you on that.
like they need their own like subdivision.
They do.
Like
they do. The whole department.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing. Yeah. It's a whole we should get free therapy because of that. Yeah, absolutely.
Especially like with their daughters more than their son. Actually, no, maybe their sons too.
Ooh. Maybe we don't know the experience of. I'll ask my brother once he comes on.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But thank you for sharing.
But to those of you that had happy, healthy relationships as teenagers and were able to share with your parents, don't underestimate and don't take that for granted.
Honestly, and that's on
Twinkle, I'm serious. It's Star. Like, it's pretty cool.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's why me as an adult, I'm able to have a little bit more of a friendship with my parents. I had talked about that with my mom on an episode. And that's why I absolutely love it. And I'm like obsessed with my parents now because they see, oh, she's grown up. She's not, you know, she has a good head on her shoulders, all that stuff. So we're able to have friends. It's not no more raising. It's like you've done all you can. Now it's just me to take on what I learned and try to do my best. Mm-hmm. But, you know, our parents, we absolutely love our parents. But there's some reality that comes with growing up in an African Christian household. There just is. So I'm glad we're able to talk about it on this show, love. So I really do appreciate you coming on, sharing your experience. Drop your numbers below, guys. I'm totally joking. I'm like, no, I'm joking. But actually, anything else you want to say before we wrap up? Any last words?
Not really.
Okay.
We should probably like work on ourselves.
For sure. Yeah, we should.
I guess that's my like closing statement.
But I also think
you should always be working on yourself.
Yeah, but I also think it's growth that we're even talking about it on a platform.
Yeah.
This is not, I haven't seen anyone talk about this at all. I'm just being honest. I just haven't. So go us for even talking about that. And also the self-awareness. Because for the longest, I just thought it was, oh, this is what it is. And just chucking it up and being like, oh, this is my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So being like, I don't know. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss. Why? Mm-hmm. Also having those conversations with my parents have been very, very therapeutic as well. Like having real conversations that are uncomfortable, that sometimes don't end very nicely, but we have to talk about it, is also nice. Yeah. So that is it for this episode, guys. Please make sure that you follow Firsties Pod on all platforms. Anywhere that you hear podcasts, we're on there. And then follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, Reddit, Facebook, Snapchat, literally everywhere. We're Firsties Pod. That's Firsties Pod. And then lastly, if you can, please leave a comment and a review. That actually helps me out a lot with the algorithm. That would be very, very helpful. That is it for this episode today, guys. Thank you so much, Namie, for coming on.
It was fun.
You're my favorite, maybe. I don't know. And that is it for this episode, guys. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.